Of course, the deteriorating relations between Kenya and the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, pose a significant threat to the substantial trade and investment ties between the two nations. Here's a breakdown of the situation, the risks, and the potential fallout. The core of the dispute: the East African Community EAC force. The current rift is primarily political and security-based, not economic, which makes its economic fallout all the more consequential. Kenya's role. Kenya led the East African Community Regional Force, EACRF, deployed in late 2022 to help quell violence from armed groups, particularly the M23 in the eastern DRC. DRC's dissatisfaction. The Congolese government, led by President Felix Tshisekedi, became increasingly critical of the Kenyan-led force. They accused it of being passive and failing to actively engage and disarm the M23 rebels, unlike the aggressive approach of the former M23 rebels now integrated into the Congolese Army, FARDC. The expulsion. This frustration led the DRC to demand the forces withdraw before the agreed-upon deadline. Kenya, feeling its efforts were unappreciated and its reputation damaged, complied, but not without diplomatic repercussions. The relationship soured dramatically, with Kenya recalling its ambassador for consultations. How this political crisis directly threatens trade and investment. The deep political mistrust now spills over into the economic sphere, jeopardizing several key areas. 1. Supply chain disruption and increased costs for Kenyan exports. The Northern Corridor. Kenya is a gateway to the DRC. A massive volume of Kenyan consumer goods, foodstuffs, beverages, pharmaceuticals, manufactured products, and transit goods for the DRC traditionally move via the Mombasa-Nairobi-Kampala route into Goma and Bukavu. Risk. Political friction can lead to heightened border checks, deliberate and lengthy customs and security checks at border crossings like Bunagana, causing costly delays for perishable goods. Harassment of traders. Kenyan businesspeople and truck drivers could face targeted harassment or demands for bribes by Congolese officials, making the route less reliable. Tit-for-tat measures. Kenya could respond with similar delays for Congolese imports, creating a vicious cycle that disrupts regional trade. 2. Jeopardizing major Kenyan investments. Kenyan companies are some of the largest foreign investors in the DRC, and their operations are now at risk. Banking. KCB Group and Equity Bank have extensive networks across the DRC. They face the risk of increased regulatory scrutiny, delays in license renewals, or even targeted audits that could hamper their operations. Telecommunications. Safaricom recently made a huge entry into the DRC market, investing hundreds of millions of dollars. Political friction could complicate its rollout, affect its relationship with regulators, and make it a target for negative publicity or operational hurdles. Aviation. Kenya Airways is a major carrier on the Nairobi-Kinshasa/Goma routes. The airline could face slot restrictions, operational challenges, or a decline in passenger traffic due to strained relations. Manufacturing and retail. Companies like Bidco Africa have invested heavily in the DRC. Their supply chains and market access could be indirectly affected. 3. Stalling of key infrastructure projects. The Joint Oil Pipeline Project. A major proposed project involves a pipeline to transport crude oil from Uganda's Lake Albert fields to the Tanzanian port of Tanga. The DRC was expected to join, allowing it to export its own oil from the same region. This high-stakes, multi-billion-dollar project requires immense political goodwill and coordination between the three countries. The current Kenya-DRC rift could see the DRC pull out or delay its participation, undermining the project's economics and viability. 4. Loss of confidence and shift in trade routes. Business confidence. The uncertainty makes Kenyan businesses hesitant to expand or make new investments in the DRC. Conversely, Congolese importers may start looking for alternative, albeit more expensive, suppliers from Tanzania or South Africa to avoid the Kenyan route. Alternative routes. The DRC might actively promote trade routes through Tanzania, the Central Corridor from Dar es Salaam, or through Angola, sidelining Kenya's port of Mombasa. This would be a significant strategic loss for Kenya's economic ambitions as a regional hub. The broader regional impact. This is not just a bilateral issue. It threatens the stability and economic integration goals of the entire East African Community, EAC. EAC integration. The Common Market Protocol, the EAC, is built on the free movement of goods, people, and capital. This dispute directly undermines those principles. Regional security. The security vacuum left by the departing EAC force could lead to a resurgence of violence in eastern DRC, which would further destabilize the region and make doing business even more perilous. Conclusion. The sinking relations between Kenya and the DRC demonstrate how quickly political and security disagreements can unravel deep economic interdependence. While the trade and investment links are robust, they are not immune to political hostility. The risks are very real. Supply chain disruptions, targeted challenges to major Kenyan investments, stalling of critical infrastructure projects, and a long-term loss of confidence that could permanently reroute trade flows away from Kenya. De-escalation and urgent diplomatic dialogue are not just a political necessity, but a critical requirement for safeguarding billions of dollars in trade and investment that benefit both nations and the wider East African region.